last time is we covered Patanjali's the way. Can you see my screen or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. So last time, what we covered in our Yoga Sutra study was we Patanjali defined there are 9 obstacles that we typically run into that create obstacles in our practice. Essentially, yoga is all about restraining our turbulent mind so that our mind attains a state of tranquility. But for that, there are 2 keys. One is abhyasa, which is a good practice. And then the second one is vairagya, which is maintaining an exuberance in life, without getting stuck. The the thing is, but all of us, we get stuck in different obstacles. And Patanjali defined as this could be vyadi, which is illness, and sthana, which is being indifferent towards this path of yoga, or samsaya, that there is some level of skepticism whether this is going to work or not, pramada being carelessness or in our way of life, alasya being lazy, avirati, which is vairagya, is transcending your sensory desires, or it's not the sensory desires, but not getting stung by them or not getting driven by them. Avirati is not able to control our sensory, drives. And Bhranti Darshana, which is like, having some kind of hallucinations, Alabdha Bhumikatva, which is like, even though you put an effort, you try to do the yoga almost every day, but it doesn't settle in yourself. It doesn't get rooted in you because you're not doing the right way of with the sincerity and the devotion. And then the last one is Anavastitatvani. Anavastitatvani means, you put in some effort and you think that you make a little bit progress and you think that that's the end of it. So being complacent and you be end of it. So, and then what Patanjali said is, people who are stuck in their practice, we can actually see them, the five symptoms, manifest in them. One is dukkha, they're stuck in sadness. And then if that sadness persists for a longer time, daurmanasya, it leads to depression. And then angame jayatva. Angame jayatva is victory. Angame jayatva, that means you don't have victory over your body. You don't have balance, and you have instability in your body and in your thoughts. Angame jayatva. And then shwasa parshwasa, your breath also becomes irregular. So these are sahabhuvaha. These are the accompaniments when you are stuck in an obstacle. Then Patanjali started in being very kind. He started then revealing some of the strategies on how we can overcome these obstacles in our practice, and then get our mind into a tranquil state. The first one, what we talked about, is contemplating on Om. Om is nothing but the Ishvara. So tasya vachaka pranavaha, the Ishvara, the entire universe is the Ishvara, and that is also captured in the sound of Om. And tajjapadartham bhavanam. Tajjapadartha bhavanam means when you contemplate on Om, when you do the Om meditation, that's when your mind essentially becomes in union with the Om, and it gets into the tranquil state. And but it doesn't mean that we always have to sit in a cave or someplace and constantly do the Om. What it means is seeing that Om, seeing that Ishwara, or it could be any one of your Ishta Devata, and doing the japa and seeing that in everything that we do. And then the second one is its ability to maintain this one-pointedness, to be able to inculcate the practice of seeing divinity, the one-pointedness in everybody that's around, in everybody and everything around. Most of the time we only get stuck in the peripherals, but rather what it says is go deeper. Don't, whatever you're pursuing, don't get stuck on the peripherals. Go deeper. That could be doing a posture or studying Yoga Sutras or the Pranayama, or when you are interacting with somebody, don't get stuck on the peripherals or 10%, 20%, and then get stuck in an obstacles. Either you run into any judgments, you have either skepticism, or you have alabdha bhumikatva or anastitatvane. What it says is ekatattva abhyasa is go deeper. go deeper into the core, go deeper into the essence, and finally the Tajjabadartha Bhavanam. Essentially, it's like you will be able to see the divinity. That means you will be able to be in union with the object of pursuit or whatever you're interacting with. And then, um, the next one is Maitri Karuna, Mudito Upekshaha, Sukha Dukkha Punya Punyanam, Punya Punya Vishayanam, Bhavana Chitta Prasadanam. In other words, there are 4 types of people, and how do we deal with the people is also leads your mind into a tranquil state. Because most of the time in our vrittis, our tendencies, mind goes into different states only because of the people around us. Some people are happy, some people are sad, some people are doing good things, some people are not doing good things to us, or kind of creating some kind of a hurt emotion. So what Patanjali world is, he revealed the secrets on how do we need to engage with people. So in other words, what he basically said is we need to maintain friendship with the people who are happy, because when they are happy, that means they are they're exhibiting the true sense of divinity is nothing but we are constantly in the eternal state of joy. So in that sense, be friendly with them, befriend them, so that you also become the divine, or you're sharing and spreading that happiness. People who are sad, at that time, they are drifted away from their divinity. What Patanjali says is don't befriend them, but what they need is the next level of engagement, which is the karuna, which is the compassion, which is to help them so that they can get out of that state of misery. Just hugging them and crying with them doesn't really lead to any solution, but rather get them, offer them the help to get to the state of a happy state, and then befriend them. Otherwise, what you do is if you befriend somebody who is in a state of sadness, we are just multiplying that. So we are multiplying the opposite of the divinity. And then people who are doing good things, instead of poking holes at them, take inspiration and celebrate other people's success with joy. And then the last one is people who are not so doing great things. Instead of shifting your awareness on the negative side of the thing, either help them realize that they are in a state of conflict, either help them to achieve their divinity, or shift your awareness to the other side, which is where there is the divine qualities in them, and contemplate on them. Because when you start focusing on the people who are doing the bad things, you yourself get into your mind and your body start vibrating in a negative way. So shift your awareness to the other side. So what we're going to do is today we're going to start focusing on some of the other techniques that Patanjali revealed. And this is something that we'll also see, we use this in our yoga practices. What Patanjali defined as the next strategy is Prachardana Vidaranabhyam va pranasya. Again, you see this word va many times. Va means essentially it's nothing but or. Either try this, if it doesn't work, try this. Patanjali realized that there are so many different types of people in different contexts. Some people are left brain, some people are right brain. Like, for example, for some people, the ekatattva abhyasa, or, om meditation, or saying that, they may not be that right brain focused, where they don't have that devotion or the bhakti, the sense of bhakti. So for them, he offered some remedies or strategies which are more about the left brain kind of focus. Whereas for other people, people who are using different practices. What this means is Prachardana Vidarnabhyam is when you're doing the pranayama, Prachardana means when you exhale completely, and then Vidarnabhyam, and you hold the breath. When you're doing any pranayama activity, the act of complete exhalation and the holding also brings your mind into that centeredness. It actually connects you to allow the mind to kind of get centered, and it actually helps you get a little bit more into the tranquil state. And this is an interesting technique. There are some pranayama practices where we actually do some of these things, where you exhale and you hold. Are there anything that anybody would want to share? Savita Garu, any pranayama technique?
I mean, yeah, I do Kapalabhati and Brahmari,
Yeah.
and other one is what the you taught us Urja Pranayama, I think.
No, Ujjayi is
Ujjayi, Ujjayi.
Ujjayi is the thing. But what you
Mhm,
said is absolutely like in a Kapalabhati, where it's all about exhale. After you do the
mhm,
Kapalabhati something, we actually recommend us to do complete exhale completely, and then we do bandhas.
mm,
What you're doing
yeah,
is your complete exhalation, and then you're holding there. So if you
yeah.
actually observe the state of that mind, the mind and the body, there is actually the mind is actually in that state. It's actually comes to the center. Then there is actually a more logical explanation. So what you're trying to do is the deeper exhale that you do, you're actually increase the chance, you're increase the opportunity to bring more fresher oxygen. So you're actually increasing the capacity to inhale deeply for the fresh air to come in.
Mm.
As an example, like if you take a sponge, and if you want the sponge to absorb more water, what you do is you would have to first squeeze it tightly,
True.
exhale completely, and then hold it. Only then it can actually absorb more. Similarly, if you want to jump higher, you would first have to kneel down and then come down and then jump higher. So what Patanjali said is, this act, and from a scientific explanation is, we have to focus so much on exhale. Most of the time, we only breathe, we always have shallow breathing. We only breathe, from about the 20% of our lung capacity. What Patanjali said is to increase your lung capacity, to be able to breathe completely, you have to, number one, exhale completely, Prachardana, in a deeper exhalation, and then hold the breath. Sorry, after the exhale, hold it. So that is the reason why all these techniques of bandhas, and in fact, some of the people, when you do the sun salutations, when you do the downward dog, that's also an exhale movement. In the downward dog, people actually ask you to do the different bandhas. You can actually do the Uddiyana bandha and
Mhm.
throat bandha and the root bandha and so on and so forth. So any opportunity that you have where you can exhale completely and hold that, that also gives you an ability to bring the mind into the center. But at the same time, what it also does is it then presents you with an opportunity to inhale completely, bring a lot more fresh oxygen, and then that oxygen actually clears the fog in your mind. Does it make
When is
sense?
the best? Yeah, yeah. When is the best time to do pranayama? Like, I mean, like, is it early morning, evening? I mean, I do in the evenings.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, this is a very good question. Usually, so there are three practices, right? One is, and then there are three gunas. One is we all have three gunas, which is tamas, rajas,
Rajasthan.
and then
So,
sattva, right? So what Patanjali revealed is, in fact, when we do the Ashtanga yoga in the sutras, we actually get into the topic. What pranayama does is, in our body, we're always exhibiting these three qualities. Tamas is
mm,
being lazy, and then it's kind of a dark energy, and then it's almost like a slumber, and then rajas is too much action, right? It is like energy, and then sattva is in the state of the equilibrium or equanimity state, and you're doing that. So what pranayama does is pranayama actually suppresses the tamas. Pranayama
mm,
helps reduce the tamas. So when you wake up in the morning, you're still in that hangover or the sleep state. I mean, depending upon how you did it. So you actually can use pranayama to actually increase to reduce the tamas. What happens is when you suppress something, then that space is occupied by the others, like either rajas or sattva fills in,
mm,
right? But rajas can also fill in. So what asanas do is it is a little bit counterintuitive, but what asanas do is it also reduces the rajas. So when you
mm,
do pranayama and asana together, what you're doing is you're actually suppressing both tamas and the rajas, so that you are actually creating more opportunity to create more sattva, and then that
mm,
creates the right preparation media thing for your meditation. So in terms of your question, I usually recommend that you always have to start with pranayama, more energizing pranayama. And in the evening, you probably have to do more of a cool down pranayamas.
Okay. And
Like,
what are the cooling? Like Kapalabhati is not one of the cooling, I'm sure.
no, yeah, Kapalabhati is the more heating one, like, Shitali, Shritakari, Brahmari, or Anlom, Vilom, Sukha Pranayama. These are all very cooling pranayamas. Right? Ujjayi is very energizing pranayama. Ujjayi, Kapalabhati, Bastrika, these are all very energizing pranayamas. So and then anytime you're doing the asanas, what you need to do is when you're doing the asanas, you always need to incorporate asanas with pranayama. And then when you do the asanas and pranayama, that's when you actually create the right environment for meditation. And most of the time, what people do is we compartmentalize it. In the morning, we want to do asanas. In the evening, we want to do pranayama, and then we pick, something to the meditation. And what Patanjali revealed is it doesn't work that way. In fact, we would have squandered all the opportunity to the meditation if you don't do meditation after your practice of pranayama and asanas.
True. I have seen the difference.
Yeah. Because the thing is,
I used to do dhyana in the morning or or just in the evening and yoga. But now I do yoga and then pranayama and then I'm going to meditation. I feel the difference. Like
I think
I'm able to focus longer actually.
That's so right. I mean, I'm so glad that you're having that insight, because essentially it all comes down to when you are in a slumber mood, when you're not in a thing, and sit down and try to do meditation, your body doesn't support you. Right? Your body is not there, and then your mind is not there, and you're only putting an effort. But after you do some deeper pranayama and then do some asana, your body is in almost like a stable position. Your breath is also in control. Then you've already suppressed the tamas and the rajas. You are almost in a state of sattva, and that gives you the right thing for meditation. Right. So this technique, I think what this strategy is saying is, there is a special purpose for all these other techniques like the bandhas and the kapalabhati and then bastrika. They are some of the things that we can actually use. Like, for example, when you are in a conflict situation or something, in some kind of trouble situation, you can use ujjayi, but you can also use this prachardana vidarna abhyam to be able to be in the center. Right? So that's one technique. And then the next technique, this is an interesting one. What it says is Vishayavati va pravarti utpanna manasa sthiti nibandhanani. What it means is, we can actually Vishayavati means our sensory organs or our sensory perceptions, like the touch, smell, and all the five sensory perceptions. What Patanjali said is, you can actually you can highlight any one of the sensory perception. We can highlight, or we can shift your awareness to just any one of the sensory touch, and then intensify that sensory perception to actually bring the mind into that centeredness. This is a great technique, actually. This is a technique, and hopefully if you have some time, I would want us to do a small experimentation, like, using hearing as a way to, bring our, mind into the centeredness. What it says is a simple example, right? So, like, for example, if you are in a state of confusion and the fog, just imagine, just pick an ice cube, like a cold ice cube. What happens is, everything else, the world, actually, all the things that you're worrying about, the mind suddenly moves all of them away. And the touch, the cold perception takes all the attention, and mind actually gets there. Right? So similarly, if you have a beautiful smell, or it could even be a strong smell, when you have that, all the other sensory perceptions, that means your mind is constantly processing a lot of different emotions, all the five sensory, and then you have intellect, you have impressions, you have smriti. Mind is constantly processing so many channels. It's just like so much information coming at it. What it's saying is when you are scattered in all different directions, knowing that your sensory is also the reason why you're scattered all around, you can actually use them to actually bring the mind into the thing. For that, what you need to do is you need to heighten the perception of any one sensation. The more sensory thing that you shift your attention, again, your mind is scattered all around, right? What it says is use any one of the sensory perception and get deeper and deeper and deeper and be in a one-pointedness in that. And this how you can actually bring the mind into that centeredness. So you can actually use the senses to actually transcend the different sensory perception.
I don't want to use the sense of taste and keep on eating.
I see. Could be. I mean, but the sense of taste is, yeah, absolutely, sense of the taste. But there the focus is not about the indulgence. It's about what actually allows you to deepen the taste. So what it means is it's not about the volume, which is like, can you actually go one-pointedness into it? Like, for example, if you take any one thing, for example, I'm just using this as an example, right? Perhaps, there is a fruit or a vegetable or even, some vegetable. There are so many flavors. Most often time, we probably only process about 5% of what is it in the taste.
True.
So what it basically saying is deepen that sensory perception, try to enjoy, try to discover the subtleties of everything, go deepen and establish the ekatattva abhyasa in that sensory perception. And then that what happens is you basically, for you to do that, you have to have intense concentration about it. And what I've also noticed is in life, we are always living life at probably 10% exuberance. The God has given this beautiful machine with us with a lot of capabilities, but we don't use them. We taste something and then we are like just swallowing and we fill it. And it was a funny situation. There was one time I was in India and there was a big party. There was some celebration that was happening. And I was seeing people like, how fast that they were eating. They were eating like, just, I don't even know what, there was like, so much effort put into making all this feast, but people were just more worried about how much can they eat or how fast they can eat. They were not enjoying anything. So I think what it says is, and in fact, this is a greater thing. When you are in the path of yoga, a lot of people confuse yoga means, vairagya means, you're actually being intolerant. In other words, you are actually, you're transcending all these things. No. Yoga is all about increasing your sensibilities. You become so sensitive. You're able to
being present every minute.
And you're able to, your grasp to perceive the subtlest and the subtlest. In fact, there is a Yoga Sutra in the end. What Patanjali says is when you master this, he says, Paramanu Paramamahatva Vashikara Sangya, something. Paramanu means the smallest and the subtlest detail will be in your perception to Paramamahatva, which is like this entire universe. You go from the minuscule, the tiniest thing to the entirety. That perception, that Vashikara Sangya becomes your capability. So the yogi, people who are on the yoga, it's like they're detached and they're not connected. They don't have any emotion. They're like, they have, great sense of tolerance. They are like, immune to anything. No. It's actually the yogis have the greatest sense of perception, the sensibilities, emotion, they can connect with it. But what they do is they don't get bonded by that emotion. You experience everything. That's what vairagya is. You experience everything with heightened sensibilities and sensitivity, but you're not stuck on it. I mean, that's what
we are constantly in a rat race, right? Like,
exactly.
Next, and the to-do list will never end.
Exactly.
So how do you bring the slowness to your life? Like, obviously nobody's going to wait for you to, by the time you finish your sensory organs, enjoy everything. I'm sure it's time to clean up.
True, 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 true. The
So
thing. Mm.
I think we are trained, I remember my daughter when she was 4 years old, I was like, okay, put on your socks, put on your shoes, let's go, let's go. Like now she's 14 and she's stopped her sensory organs really. So I have to tell her like 3 times before something gets done sometimes. But what I'm saying is we train them not to enjoy. This has been my struggle, right? Like
Exactly.
undoing each and every layer of things. It's so difficult. Um, Not difficult, but I'm saying constantly bringing. Now I'm thinking about it more, but I think somewhere we need to start earlier, the better.
Yeah, actually, the earlier is better. I think our emphasis should be more in teaching people how to experience everything in its finest detail. I mean, I think that leads to mastery and excellence. I think what we have
But
done is
I myself have undone that, like, for my child, my daughter, I have
mm,
undid her slowness. Like, she would have wanted to put up socks in certain way. I'm like, no way, let's go. We have no time. I have to drop you to the babysitter and we go. So
I think
I think,
mm, we all did that. I think what I'm noticing to some extent is
mhm.
that actually, kids actually start with that because they're able to enjoy every little thing, right? And then we
Oh
basically put
yeah,
in the rat race, right?
yeah,
And then we basically inculcate all these bad habits, and then it manifests into a bigger monster at a later time where in the class they may not be able to perceive all the details, like as the complexity gets bigger, that
hmm,
they haven't built that ability to go deeper and deeper to understand it, to achieve bigger things.
true, true,
And then what
so
happens
true,
is they fall behind.
true.
So it's not because of, I mean, most of us, we all have this God-given greater, capabilities. It's just that we basically are in the rat race. We basically dumb down each one of them. And then we think that that is the way to success. And then
Mhm,
suddenly, when you're presented with a situation where it's required of the excellence, then
mhm.
you don't have the conditioning. You didn't train your limbs or your senses to get to that level of detail,
Yeah.
and then they fall behind. And then there is questions about attention disorder, this disorder, that disorder. The best part is Patanjali basically said is you don't have to start anywhere. You can start this at any time, right? So this is, and the techniques are so so easy, simple. All it takes is practice. In fact, one of the things that I thought will do is this hearing meditation.
Mm.
So hearing meditation is, I mean, you could even take one of the Om meditation with lots of birds and different things. The trick is in the mind when you close that. How do you observe the subtlest sounds? Right? In every moment, if you train your mind to, it's just like, okay, now tell me what are all the sounds that are there, and without being judging, because most of the time what happens is the mind tricks, and when you come in the sound, what happens is you're trying to interpret what the sound is, and again mind takes you on a journey, which is like, but when it goes in a nice journey, then there is so much else that's happening. So if you train your mind to observe all the sounds that are happening, which is like, in all this Om thing, there is vibration, there is some birds, there is some, the bells and all this stuff. If you just, heighten your sense of, hearing perception, just to observe every sound as like, you're literally is like, taking one thing out at a time. Like, you're like parsing each one of the sounds that are there in that moment. And when you get to that, what you will eventually see is your hearing actually gets so much better. And I remember
True.
when I did my first Art of Living course in 2007, there was an experiment that they used to do, which is like, they used to buddy up two people, and they used to blindfold one person, and they used to actually ask the other person to take them on a trip to a park or something. And then, so you basically close your eyes, and then you literally, walk around. The other person is, telling you what the scenery is in front of you, and they're describing. And then you're also at that time, you see that, your hearing, your smell, your touch, all those things suddenly get so much amplified.
Mm.
So I think, the eyes is actually a bigger problem, because that's probably the most dominating sensory perception.
But Arjuna was
So,
able to see the eye of the bird. So does it mean that he actually actually heightened the sensory of eyes?
he did, but the thing is, for him, when he did it, the thing is, he could not see anything else, right? The tree and leaves or anything, he could only see that, right? So that means, he was able to just see only the dot, but the eyes basically is like, it presents the biggest image, right? When you see it, you have so much in your thing. Whereas the hearing, you only hear the sounds from 20 to whatever the decibels.
Mm.
So the eye basically, I mean, that's the reason, right? When you actually, we can actually see this. When you watch a movie, most of the time, the visuals stay with you a lot. But if you actually listen to the movie without looking at the visual thing, you actually can process the background music, you understand more emotions, you can actually connect to the emotion even much better.
True. I don't know how old everybody is here. I don't know. But we used to get a cassette player with this movie in it.
Yeah.
And I remember enjoying that much better than the movie, actually.
No, I mean, I was grown up that way. Just like, we would only have that. I mean, we only had TV, I think, when I was in my BTech second year or third year or something like that, right? So,
Oh,
but that
okay.
was, that created, I enjoyed the background music. I understood every emotion, what was happening. I mean, even now, most of the time I try to suppress the visual thing. That actually allow me to discover a lot more things. But one of the things here is
I'm a
what it,
huge audiobook listener. It's hard for me to sit down and read a book, but audiobooks, only through audiobooks I've been able to read quite a few books. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult.
yeah. I think, so all it says is, when you're, it could even be a smell. I mean, there was one example that we say is like, sometimes when you go in the park, there's so much beauty there. There is each flower and all the things. Instead of going deeper into the beauty of a flower or the garden, our attention shifts into selfies, or we are talking, we are doing this. So basically it's like, your comprehension of in that thing is scattered so much. And then you're always jumping to like, what's next, right? So what you're basically saying is, you can actually use the sensory perception, but at any one point, just focus on one perception and heighten the perception, so that your mind gets centered. So for that, use a fragrance, or use and even when you're using the eyesight, one of the exercises is Trataka, which is like, in a dark room, you can actually light a candle, and then if you could just focus on staring into the tip of the light, the flame, and that actually improves your concentration, the dharana, and also your eyesight.
Mm.
So that's one of the exercises. It's called Trataka. And then the hearing, which is basically, it's like, do any meditation and some of the things that you can actually do that will actually help. So all it says is, holding or visualizing an object of the senses, any one of the senses, and it's both perceive the thing and visualize it. So connect the sensory with the visualization, because when you hear something, you may or may not see that thing, but try to get the sound and then visualize that image, so that you're like in that one pointedness of that object, that again brings your mind into a state of centeredness. And then what it does is, it then builds more yogic powers in you. You're essentially becoming a superman. It's not a superman, you're already a super. Being human is super, but we kind of dumb it down over the our way of life. So we'll again become a superman, right?
I think
So
we
then,
make ourselves into ordinary people, and then some point,
exactly,
hopefully, we all realize that we
exactly.
are.
Yeah, and Sadhguru says that, right? Sadhguru actually says this.
Mm.
It's not about superhero, superman. Being human is super. It's just that we don't let most of the things in our sense of experience. We lose it. We dumb it
True.
down, and then we just have to become a human. And being human is being super, right? So very quickly, I'll cover a few more things, and then we're gonna wrap up for today. Then the next technique is Vishokava Jyotishmati. And this is something that we use in our yoga classes too. So Shoka means, sorrow. Vishoka, to be able to transcend the sorrow that came from the obstacles. Shift your attention to connect with the Jyotishmati, connect with the light. The light is already there, within us. So, try to see that the light either in your Ajna chakra, this is the Jyotishmati, or, in your heart chakra, which is Anahata chakra. Doing that some chakra meditation, but visualize that the light of awareness is within. It's almost like, like the previous one, using the visualization, visualizing that divine light within you, and try to connect that light to any one of the energy centers, whether it is your Ajna chakra, Anahata chakra, or Manipura chakra. I mean, usually it's better if you, not better in the sense that, use your Ajna chakra or Anahata chakra. And then if you can connect to visualize the light, and then, do a meditation, the concentration on that, that will also rid you of the sorrow. So your actually ability to connect with the Om by using this Jyotishmati type meditation. Right? And then the next one is, some people say like, but I'm unable to see the light within me. Then what Patanjali said is, okay, if you cannot do that, now the next technique is Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam, which is like, shift your awareness to Vitaraga, those enlightened people around us who have transcended the Vitaraga, people who have transcended these desires or anger or any one of these emotions. Imagine any one of them, shift your awareness to them, and then visualize the light of them. So what it means is like what Shriramji said, we can actually take the help of a candle. So assuming that that enlightened person is that candle, we can use that candle to light our own candle. Light our Jyotishmati. So when we are not able to connect with the divinity within us, the Jyotishmati, then, start visualizing somebody like, could be Buddha, could be Rama, or somebody that is around us who seem to have been Vitaraga, which is that then take their help to light our own candle. Right? And the Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam. Chittam is, our mind is like the container, right? Mind is like a water. It takes the shape of the vessel that you put in, right? So, shift your awareness. It connects back to the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshaha. When you start focusing your attention on happy people and Mudito, the people who are doing the good things, even people who are doing the bad thing, instead of, putting your chitta on those negative side, but shifting your awareness to the positive side, your mind essentially becomes more and more purified and get into the tranquil state. So Vitaraga Vishayam Chittam. Either try to connect with the light within you, and if you cannot, take the help of an enlightened person that's of our choice, and then shift our awareness to them. And again, when you're shifting your awareness, try to be one-pointedness, which is like why they are there, why they're enlightened. So go deeper into whether it's a Buddha, Rama, Ramana Maharshi, or whoever it is. Try to go deeper into it, not at the surface level, because when you're at the surface level, you won't be able to go deeper and make a one-pointedness. So that's
read about them, read about their like charitra, or like whatever.
Charitra, and then start embellishing the details, right? If it's a Rama, just like why you like Rama, what are the good things, which is like which is like from whatever the detail, the finer detail. That means you are carving the statue in your mind. So you are embellishing the qualities, you're embellishing the thing. I mean, that is the reason why all these saints actually created all the scriptures. Like it's a Vishnu Sahasranama, glorified all the 1,000 attributes, like a Sahasra, right? But what we do is we memorize it, but we don't internalize it. Rudram. So what it is like, you are actually creating an image with finer details, almost like you're painting a canvas, right? With finer strokes. Each stroke allows you to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So that then you become that. The more details that you're like, let's take Krishna or Rama, but the more detail that you're essentially personifying, you're defining your own deity in its finer detail. And when you actually internalize the detail, you're essentially making yourself be that. right? And that is what it is. And in fact, this chiseling the details. In fact, that is what there is a nice scientific theory too. If you want to accomplish something, what it is, most of the time you only operate at the subconscious level. We don't actually never go into the details of what you're trying to do. What it says is, go deeper and deeper, give it a concrete form in your thoughts to the finest and finest detail. When you're doing that, the universe automatically makes it happen. We don't allow that level of thought to happen. Right? And then the next two are very simple, which is swapna nidra jnana lambanamba, which is when one of the other remedies is try to understand the knowledge behind the dream and the sleep states. I mean, this is kind of an Advaita philosophy, and it's like a matrix philosophy, which is perhaps like the dream is a state of a reality state, and sleep is another state of reality. What we think is a jagrati, that itself could be a virtual reality. We don't know. We just believe that. In fact,
Understand
that's
different dimensions.
exactly, this is a dimension. So once this becomes a video game, then what are we, once this is a game, then why are you so worried about it? Just play the game. Just like when you are in a dream, when you're in a sleep and when you're dreaming, that looks like so real to you. At the time, you're responding, and your heart rate and everything is responding as if it's real. What if this is another dream, which is what the Matrix movie or Inception we talk about, right? And this is what Shankaracharya profoundly said. In fact, in the Pratasmarana Sotram, there's something like, Shishupta Jagrati Nityam Mani. It basically is like there are three states of the three steps of realities. None of them are real. The real thing is Turiyam, which is the one conscious state, which is the Om, which is always pervasive. Is always it's a constant witness. That is who we are. That is the true real state that we have. So, and again, this is a little bit of a deeper Advaita type philosophy. All it says is, don't take life seriously. Whatever the emotions that you're going through is just like a dream. What you're having is sleep. What you're having is this thing. So that knowledge is another way to get your centered in mind to be more centered. And the last one is yathabhimata dhyanadva. And what it ultimately says is like, take whatever the type of meditation technique that you want. Invest in any type of meditation. And that is also the most important thing, because ultimately it's all about don't worry about whether it is this type of meditation, that type of meditation, whatever the thing, whatever comes in, invest in any one of the meditative techniques, and that will also rest you. And then he ends with the sutra that I was talking about. When you are following these techniques on the path of yoga, paramanu paramamahatvanto vashikaraha. So what it means is, when you are in this journey, when you are using these techniques, when you are practicing this meditation, everything from the tiniest, subtlest detail to the entire cosmos will come under your perception. You will have that comprehension. And that is what Patanjali revealed as part of the 9 strategies to overcome our obstacles. But in the end, we all become the humans who are super. So that's kind of the quick overview of the philosophy for today. Any questions, comments before we wrap up?
No. I mean, how to do all of this is the question.
No, the question is, it's not what Patanjali said is like, it's not like you do all of them. All it said is wa. At least take one. Take one and then try to build that muscle, grow that muscle. And again, if you start doing everything, it's like in the 5 senses, and it will be 10% in all those things. But I think what Patanjali also said is, whatever we are doing, there is Ruddhan Samskara and then Nirodha Samskara. So it's just like, all these things, any effort that you're putting, it's actually building towards a major transformation. The goal is to have the awareness and then start implementing some of these things, right? So what I'll do is, for about 5 minutes, I was going to do a guided meditation, but I think we don't have time. So what I'll do is, I'll quickly put for a couple of minutes there is a nice Om meditation track. Let's all close our eyes and then try to use that Yoga Sutra, Vishayavati va Pravartirutpanna Manasa Nibandanani. So which is like, let's use the hearing and try to get get union with all the sounds that are there, and try to observe every sound that is happening in every moment. And that's how we can actually deepen, perhaps, deepen our sense of perception. So with that, everybody take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. One more deep breath. Exhale. Now with relaxed, close your eyes and then start observing the sounds. Gently shift your awareness to observing the sounds far, far, far away from you. Try to scan the sounds within your room. Sounds within your body. Om vibrations. We'll end today's practice with the final prayer. Follow with me. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Patrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. We wish everybody to be happy. Wish everybody to be free of sorrow and disease. Wish everybody to see only auspicious things. Let there be peace everywhere. Of your palms. Cup your eyes, transmit the love, and slowly and gently open your eyes. Thank you all for sharing your practice with me this evening. And we'll see you again on Saturday. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Good night.
Right.